Hi everyone, welcome to another episode. In today's episode, we are going to take a deep dive into the world of holistic health and transformation. I am thrilled to have with us Kristine Genovese. She is a transformative force. She is an LA Tribune best-selling author, and she's the creator of the groundbreaking Soul Intelligence Method. Kristine is on a mission to empower healthcare professionals and healers worldwide. And I'm excited to get started with this conversation. It's going to be so powerful. So get ready to explore her unique approach, practical wisdoms, and inspiring insights to help elevate your health and purpose in life. Kristine, we give you a warm welcome. Welcome to the show.
Oh, Alka, thank you so much. I'm delighted to be here with you today.
Absolutely. So let me start by asking, can you share with us what was the pivotal moment or experience that led you to become a transformative force in holistic health?
Oh my gosh. Well, that's quite the story to start with.
Take your time, take your time.
Well, what I would say is first off, um, I think what really did it for me was March 12th of 2020. Now, if we think back to what happened with March 12th of 2020, that was the start of the big timeout, as I call it, when COVID had really started to begin. And so basically, at that time, I was a corporate turnaround specialist.
Mhm.
Um, and basically, um, at that time, I was in the doctor's office with my now husband at an oncologist appointment. And I got the call from the head of HR letting me know my services were no longer needed. And that was pretty shocking to me because I had always met or exceeded expectations. And I had just gotten a performance bonus. So this came out of nowhere. Like I was shocked. I couldn't believe it. And in panic, like the immediate reaction was panic mode. What am I going to do? I'm in
Yeah.
an oncologist's office. My husband's being diagnosed with prostate cancer. I just lost my job. I'm in like complete shock. So I texted my boss, the COO, and I said, I just got fired. He says, me too. I'm like, what?
Wow.
Oh, yeah. So March 12th of 2020 was a Thursday, and we had just gotten done preparing the board deck to let the company know that had we been allowed to hire the people we wanted to hire in the fourth quarter, we would have not only met the expectation in Q1, we would have exceeded it.
Mhm.
So what the CEO did is he took our board deck, went into the boardroom, said we didn't hire enough people when he was the one telling us to hold the line on expenses through the end of the year. And he went on a hiring spree. Now, as karma has a way of working things out.
Sure does,
He,
yeah.
yes, right. His board, what the board insisted on a board investigation, so he was removed from office. But then
Mhm.
he put a crony in his place, and they summarily ran the company into the ground, and it does not exist today.
Oh,
So
wow.
that's what happened on that side. So what happened on my side was after I got through, all the feels and went through all the stages of grief, right? I was fortunate enough to be given an exit package and about a 9-month runway to figure out, what are my next steps, right?
Mhm.
The first thing is, you're going through the shock and then you're like, oh my gosh, and nobody's hiring and everyone's trying to figure out this work from home thing. And, there I had no options. So I really did a lot of prayer and meditation. And so
Mhm.
it was not only, everyone's great timeout, it was Christine's personal timeout. Because I had been this corporate warrior, plane hopping, adrenal junkie,
Right.
who needed a timeout, I guess. And I had a
Mhm.
really good friend at the time who said to me, why don't you really think about what you truly want to do
Mhm.
rather than what you've always done? And that was pretty impactful, right? I think simply because when you're so focused on, achieving the results and driving and going, you don't really take time out to think about it. Brandon Burchard wrote a book called Average Sucks, which is an interesting title in and of itself. But
Right.
in
Yeah.
that book, right, he talks about how we operate in our zone of excellence and that we do
Mhm.
that for a certain period of time. And that's how we define ourselves. We identify with that. People see us in that role. They like us in that role. We get paid really well to stay in that role.
Yeah.
But then something happens where you realize, okay, I've done everything I can do
Hmm.
here. It's
Hmm.
time to step in my zone of genius.
That is so true. Yes. Exactly.
So, yeah, I mean, I remember I had, during this time, a really powerful meditation. I just had tears streaming down my cheeks, right? Where I
Mm.
knew and I heard I couldn't go back into corporate America. Like it was just this visceral response that there was no way I could do it. It felt like, I would just die if I did. Like my soul would shrivel up. And so I know now that was my soul intelligence screaming at me, to pay attention.
Right.
And yeah, and so through a series of meditations, that's really how the soul intelligence method was born. I Yeah, I mean it's a little bit longer story to unfold, but
No,
you know,
that's okay. Take your time because I mean, we want to learn your story. We want to learn the journey. Uh, how has Kristine inspired? And we're going to be sharing more I'm going to ask you more questions about your journey today. But, that's what we want to just get to know you, your journey, what inspired you and I can totally understand. Oftentimes, we get into the business world, you were in corporate, but sometimes, you can get into a burnout and when that is the case for most, anyway, it's good to transition and to do what you love. And
yeah.
I always feel that people need to have that chance, So sometimes it's just like a moment that you're just being given to show you that Kristine, maybe that's not your path, but maybe this is your path, what you should be doing.
Well, I know if the divine hadn't plucked me out of corporate America, I'd
Yes,
still be there.
true,
So,
exactly.
it was definitely divine intervention.
Right.
Um,
Yeah.
yeah, and so what I did, I kind of had these meditations where the method that I now call the soul intelligence method was
Mhm.
downloaded to me. And
Mhm.
what that is, it's a bioenergetic healing method that helps get to the root cause of dis-ease in the body.
Mm.
Um, and it does it in a painless way, and I'll get into what that is in a minute. But what I did is I decided, okay, you know what, I'm going to lean on my corporate network, and my first step is I'm going to create a leadership program where I'm going to talk to CEOs and I'm going to tell them, look, if I could get your entire team, your management team, to start, being lit up from the inside out,
Yeah.
right? Just totally in alignment with your mission, your vision, your values, and your purpose, they're going to run through the fire for you. Give me a quarter and I'm going to give you that. So
Right.
they all said
Yeah.
yes, right? Who doesn't want that? And so
True.
I
Yeah.
developed, right? I developed a
Uh-huh.
12-week leadership program. And in the beginning, I used this really cool tool called the Game Changing Index that I still use today. It's super cool.
Mhm.
It shows you where you naturally put your energy, like where it naturally wants to flow and go, which is really helpful for team dynamics and lots of cool things. It's a cool tool that was developed in the UK
Right.
um, by a research firm looking for game changers. And so it's a great tool and I love it. So I used that in the beginning of the course. Then
Okay.
I would have a one-on-one with everyone midpoint through the course. And this was designed for like middle managers to become senior leaders to move into the C-suite, that kind of a program.
Uh-huh.
And then at the end of the program, I gave everybody a choice for their third one-on-one where we could do a traditional coaching session because I do have a coaching credential. And I said, we can talk about where you are today, where you want to go, and all the things, how they've been working with your team. I said, or you can take a risk walk with me and have a soul intelligence session where we'll get to the root cause of why you're in this position in the first place, why your team's not working out, and why you're having all these challenges in your personal life as well. Every
Right.
single person took the risk walk, and I knew I was onto something.
That is
So,
amazing. Wow.
so that was my
Congratulations.
first clue,
Yes.
right? Yes,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, so that
That
was clue number one.
right. Clue number one, exactly. And but they followed you, so that was great. So let's talk about how do you specifically work with healthcare professionals and healers to empower them through your method, the soul intelligence method?
Absolutely. Well, the way I got into introducing this work into functional medicine, because I had come from, higher education and the corporate turnarounds I was talking to you about, was
Yeah.
I sent an email to my doctor, who is a
Hmm.
triple board certified MD,
Hmm.
and I said to her, "Hey," I said, "there's really nice personal email." And I said, I know you nucky plane hopping lunatic, but there's another side to me. And the other side to me is that I have this ability to shift energy. And I've developed a method, and I would really like to share it with you. And I know you're busy, but I will clear my entire calendar, my entire afternoon, and I will just come and wait in your office. And when you have a moment, we'll do it. And she said, "Okay, let's do it." So I went down to her office, and as it turns out, she runs a practice with several practitioners. One of
Hmm.
the practitioners is like, uh, three of my clients, my patients canceled today, and that never happens. I go, I guess we're supposed to work together. So I started working with her colleague who had this tremendous release. She was crying. She kicked her water all over the floor. Emotions were just spewing out everywhere. It was wild. And she was like, "How did you know those things? How did this happen?" And like right at that moment, my doctor knocked on the door, saw her asking how everything was going, saw her colleague was a complete hot mess, and she goes, "Okay, I'm next." And it was game on from there.
Wow.
So what's
Amazing.
so what's really cool about that is actually the Dr. Lisa Coach is the medical doctor that let me kick the door down in functional medicine. She
Hmm.
is also a member of Tony Robbins' medical team, not only a medical doctor but a functional medicine practitioner, and she wrote the foreword to my book for me. So it was really, really cool.
Beautiful.
But that's how I
Yeah.
started working in the field of functional
Right.
medicine.
Hmm.
Um, I also had a client, a one-on-one executive coaching client I was working with at the time. So basically, that's what I did is I used coaching as my vehicle to introduce my method, right, to augment what I was doing.
Right.
And he really excelled in the program, and he happened to be the CEO of a nutraceutical company
Oh,
called
okay.
Nutritional Frontiers. And
Right.
Nutritional Frontiers produces incredible supplements and vitamins and um, uh, medical, grade, professional grade supplements for doctors in functional medicine and integrative medicine. And he turned my, coaching methods around on me. And he said, you're going to work for me full time someday. And I'm like, no, I'm not. And here I am, almost 4 years later, and using the soul intelligence method and also working in the field of functional medicine. I'm
That's
also
good.
the chief growth officer for Nutritional Frontiers. So that works out really well.
Amazing, amazing. Well, congratulations. That's so incredible as to how you managed to weave all this in, and now you're, doing amazing, amazing stuff. And when it comes to health, I always like to be on top of trends because I think when it comes to trends in medicine, I just absolutely learn. I'm just so curious to learn as to what is happening and how all of us can really adapt and pivot if needs be to whether it's traditional medicine or the holistic approach. Can you share with us, Kristine, what are some of the emerging trends or innovations that excite you most currently?
Well, I think the neatest thing for me is that, so many doctors are open to alternative healing methods, right? My goal is to have the soul intelligence method in medical practices and wellness centers throughout the country because it
Mhm.
really gets to the root cause of underlying dis-ease in the body, which is trapped energy. And emotions are supposed to be energy in motion. And when they pool
Mm.
in the body,
Mhm.
that's when they cause dis-ease or dysfunction or a dissonance in the frequency. And you got to go see a doctor. So it really goes hand in hand. And the study of bioenergetics was developed in the 1950s, like, or at least documented in the 1950s by Dr. Alexander Lowen. And
Mm,
what he did is he talked about bioenergetics being the correlation between your physical well-being and your mental and emotional well-being, which to me is kind of common sense. Physically, you're not feeling great. Mentally, emotionally, you're probably not doing so hot either, right? We're all
right.
one being, which is
Right.
the whole idea of functional medicine and holistic healing. So I do believe that medicine is on a spectrum and that Einstein was onto something. He actually said the future of medicine is frequency. And that's
Mm,
because I think we all forget that we are these protons, neutrons, electrons, and an electromagnetic field because we're physical, we're corporal, right? And we forget that we're actually energetic beings and
mhm.
things get stuck in our energy field. That's how come energy can get stuck in people, places, or things, or your physical body, your mental body, or your emotional body. So energy is everywhere and we just forget it because we feel it or, something's tangible. But the only way we're seeing each other today is through Zoom. Well, how is that information coming through, right? It is energy, it is
Energy.
frequency,
Right.
right? That
Right.
is being received by either the laptop or the phone.
Mhm.
We receive energy through, our physical, mental, emotional, and energetic body, but we just don't think about it.
I
It
don't think
just
about it.
happens. Right?
Right.
But it's the same thing with music. It's the frequency. That's how we hear it through our ears. We don't see it, but we know it's there, right?
Right. Yeah.
So in terms of what's new, hot, and wow, I just did actually a webinar for Nutritional Frontiers and all of their healthcare practitioners um, on the future of medicine being frequency. We're actually using frequency and vibration to kill cancer cells, the outer membranes of cancer cells now. So that is a huge development, as
Mhm.
opposed to having to take the chemicals to destroy the bad cells. It's using the energy, the frequency to break up the outer cell wall or membrane of the cell to actually help with cancer. I mean, how amazing is
Wow.
that,
That's
right?
amazing. Oh,
I
wow.
know. Now
Mind
there's other
blown.
other
I'm just mind
developments.
blown.
Yeah, I know, right? But there's other really cool developments and other things like the benefits of red light therapy,
I was
right?
just going to say that red
Yeah,
light, how is that going to come into play? Is that, I guess we're going to be seeing more of that, the red light and how that's, yes.
absolutely.
Hmm.
Well, I
Hmm.
mean, it's wonderful for like fine lines and wrinkles, and it's wonderful for pain. Like if you've ever used a red light wand or a red light bed, it helps to restore the cell's energy, right? And so there's so many things that can do good for us, right? And we're finding out the benefits. And I think what, you know, people forget is how functional medicine, really how medicine changed, right? We used to use a lot of homeopathic remedies and a lot of natural ways of healing. And what happened was when some of the wealthy oil folks, in the country and our industrial revolution decided to put petroleum-based drugs out in the world, they
Hmm.
invested in medical schools and changed the nature of the education based on the funding that they were providing. So that's not a bad thing. I mean, medicine has its place, right? Pharmaceuticals have a place.
Hmm.
But what happened was is they eliminated all nutrition counseling. They eliminated, they wouldn't fund a school if they would focus on that. And they tried to make it as though the natural remedies or those remedies didn't work and they were all bunk and wives' tales and things like that, so that people would lean towards the pharmaceutical industry because they could make money off of that.
Exactly. Yeah.
So,
Hmm.
they always say if you follow the money, you figure it out, right? And that's a very abridged version, but I really believe that medicine's on a spectrum, right? And sometimes we need pharmaceuticals to help the body heal.
Mm. Hmm.
Sometimes we can use nutraceuticals, a natural way of healing, to get the body what it needs. But our bodies are built to restore themselves.
Right.
So, for example, I partner with functional medicine doctors. I'll give you just a quick, like one case
Yeah.
study that's kind of
Sure.
top
Yeah.
of mind.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, so I was working with this gentleman who his wife was really at the end of her rope, to be honest with you, when she found me. She heard me on actually a podcast and decided, you know what, I think I need to book a session
Right.
for her husband. Okay, her
Hmm.
husband has been suffering with tremendous stomach pain and like thoracic pain, so kind of in the chest area. He has been to doctors, every kind of doctor, functional, integrated, traditional, the VA system, Veterans Association system, in our in United States. Um,
Mhm.
every doctor you can think of, and nobody could figure out why this man has pain. They're calling it a phantom pain.
Oh,
Well,
wow. Yeah. Hmm.
when he got on the Zoom, I could see his breathing was labored, and I'm like, oh gosh, this gentleman's in a lot of pain, right? He had like oxygen going in his nostrils as well.
Hmm.
Um, and so he's been suffering with this for years. So I opened up and I did a soul intelligence session. And what the method is, I should probably preface this quickly, but I use a book of charts and a pendulum to get to the underlying emotional root cause, whether that's, a self-limiting belief, whether that's trapped negative energy, emotions, thoughts, whether it's old patterns or archetypes, roles we might have played in our life. It could be um, old trauma, because the body holds that and stores that. And
Right.
most of
Yeah.
it is in our subconscious mind where we can't access it. So you need
Hmm.
somebody or something to help you figure out what's in the subconscious to bring it to the conscious so you can release it. Now, therapists do that by making you relive that situation to move the energy up and out of the body, right? So you
Yeah.
finally get some relief. So I do it in a way that's painless. I did say somebody might cry. Occasionally it happens, but typically I think that's the soul releasing. I think it's holy water. So I love it when
Hmm.
somebody gets that relief. But anyway, so go back to the man. All right. He I could tell by the end of the session, he had some relief. He was breathing easier. But what I discovered during the session was that he was holding on to the energy of 80 people. And I was like, what? I said to him, I go, this is like 50 years old. He said, I was in the Vietnam War
Oh, right.
and
Yeah.
my company had 80
Hmm.
people in it.
Oh,
And a,
wow.
a huge tragedy had occurred. And he
Hmm.
was holding on to that, and it was in his stomach, like in his gut, right? And if you think about the first place we get injured or we get hurt, typically, like something bad happens, it's like a punch in the gut, right? Or
Hmm.
you're really nervous, like maybe I was really nervous before coming on your show and like I would get butterflies, right? It's the
Right.
first
Yeah.
place
Hmm.
we hit. That's our solar plexus, right? Our solar plexus chakra, our gut. It's also really interesting to me. That's the first place that most functional medicine doctors start to treat people. There is so much that goes on in our gut that it is how we show up in the world, how we see ourselves, our self-esteem. It is the first, our
Wow.
core is the first place we get attacked, interestingly enough,
Yeah.
energetically.
Yeah.
So our stomach does two things, right? It holds food and processes food. Well, it also holds emotions or processes emotions or doesn't. So that's really where all the trouble starts. But I'll tell you about this man in particular. So I shifted the energy up and out. And so by the end of the session, I could see him breathing much easier. And I
Hmm.
said, okay, now that we've gotten the energy out of there, he also had things he was holding on to from a previous marriage that was also affecting him. And I said, but now that we've gotten what was stuck and holding this in place up and out,
Hmm.
now we've got to get the body to heal. So I referred him to one of our functional medicine doctors, an incredible, he's a pharmacist or traditionally trained pharmacist and naturopathic doctor. So he's got the full spectrum of what to do.
Hmm.
He reviewed his blood work and did all kinds of the physical tests, and he came up with why he was having this pain that nobody else could diagnose.
Hmm.
In traditional medicine, when you're suffering from depression, they put you on antidepressants. And what
Yes.
they're designed to do is
Hmm.
to produce serotonin. And most of our serotonin is produced in our gut. That's the happy hormone, right?
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, how could you produce too much happiness? What kind of crazy is that? Anyway, what his body was doing, because the doctors kept giving him more and more because the pain wouldn't go away, they were thinking, that would treat it. What it
Hmm.
did is his body was producing too much serotonin, causing the pain in his gut and his thoracic area. So we gave him something called GABA, which is something in a product we have called Calm Day, which is like a natural version of Xanax, so it calms the body. And the
Hmm.
GABA counteracted the serotonin production and started to get his body to normalize his levels again. So that's how I partner with functional medicine, right? We're
Right.
treating them
Uh-huh.
physically, mentally,
Mhm.
emotionally, spiritually, energetically in all ways
Uh-huh.
so that they can move forward. Pretty
That's
cool.
beautiful. That is so cool. Yeah. Well, thank you for, imparting that knowledge because there was some, when it comes to the gut, I mean, I really didn't know like most of it, like what really happens. But thank you for sharing those beautiful insights. But I just want to go back to you talked about the energy, the emotional, the mental, and the physical. All of us, humans, we are energy, and I'm just curious when we talk about the energy, like how if an individual is, depressed or they have this negative emotion that they are feeling at that moment. So they want to go to, and we have to change the vibration. That's what, we are told that doesn't matter if you want to, from the negative emotion, when you want to be positive, like if you're on the AM frequency, so it's about your frequency, it's about the energy that you want to give out to go to be where you want to be. So if you're at the AM frequency and you want to be at the FM, um, I'm just curious as to what does one have to do if they're at that place to go and be where they want to be at the FM frequency?
There's a
What do they have
lot
to
of
do?
different things.
Yeah, yeah.
There's a lot of different things you can do, right?
Uh-huh.
I am a big proponent for using all the tools available, right? I'm a big fan of Dr. Joe Dispenza,
Yeah.
um,
Hmm.
right? And he teaches you how to meditate, right? And to go into the field and get your heart and mind in coherence
Uh-huh.
so that you can shift to a higher vibration, right? And to be forward thinking about where you want to be and how are you going to feel when you're in that place, right?
Uh-huh.
A lot of coaching techniques talk about foreshadowing. So, a great exercise for people to do is to envision the life that they truly want to live, but not only envision it, but feel it. What does it feel like to be in that
Mm,
state? What does it feel like
right.
to, who am I with? What am I experiencing? So,
Yeah.
one of my favorite activities, especially towards the end of the year, is imagine it's a year later and it's New Year's Eve. What are you celebrating? All the things you accomplished, all the people you got to impact, all the
Mm,
things you got, the trips you took, the family, the friends, all of the things. Because if you remember the book, The Secret,
yes. Yeah.
right?
Hmm.
That was really about powerful affirmations, which is really the pineal gland sending the signal out to the universe of what you want into the electromagnetic field. I'm going to talk quantum physics here, but I'll break it down.
No worries. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
okay. And then what collapses the wave into a particle and brings something into physical form is emotion. And that is really what Neville Goddard said, that emotion is really the secret. And that's one of the reasons why Dr. Joe Dispenza talks about heart and mind coherence, right? Because both of them have to be in alignment.
Yeah.
And really, in order to bring about things that you really want to feel and experience, it's the emotion. And the emotion is what the subconscious mind responds to. So the subconscious mind is running the show 95% of the time, which is really scary, right? Because we can't really access the subconscious mind. It's good, like
Yeah.
we breathe
Yeah.
when we're sleeping, that the
Right.
subconscious mind is doing that for us. But,
Yeah.
it's like, how do you shift what's stuck in there if you don't even know it's stuck in there? And if you're trying to use your conscious mind, that's 5% of the time, right? So
Yeah.
that's all that strategizing, thinking, calculating, all that stuff up there. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
But the conscious mind, if the Heart Math Institute actually measured the electromagnetic field around the brain is only 2 foot wide. Think about how much time we spend in that. The
Wow.
electromagnetic field around the heart is 6 foot wide. It is infinitely stronger. And
Hmm.
if you actually look at the heart, it's really a toroidal field. So it's not just this random pump in our chest. It's actually, emanating energy from our center. So the more we can get our heart and mind in coherence, the happier we're actually going to be. Now, there's
Hmm.
simple things we can do. Since I went quantum a little bit, let me talk about things that we can do on a daily basis. One of
Yeah.
the best things we can do
Mm-hmm.
is to go outside first thing in the morning and get sun on our face, that
Yeah.
early morning sun, vitamin D.
Mm-hmm.
That helps, vitamin D comes from, production is inspired by the sun. We can take vitamin D. It's one of the things that our body depletes quite a bit of. Next to
Mm-hmm.
magnesium, I think it's the second most depleted, um, vitamin in the body or mineral in the body. And if you vitamin D really should be considered a hormone, believe it or not. It affects us so much, but that's a great thing to do. Also, being out in nature in general helps you
Mm-hmm.
ground, right? If you can be
Yes.
anywhere,
Yeah.
a forest where it's quiet. I'm fortunate enough to live close to the beach. That's really the natural rhythm. The
Yeah.
sound of the waves in the ocean is amazing to get you to recalibrate. But
Mm-hmm.
there are fun, easy things. One of my favorite things to do to shift energy is to laugh, because that brings you right up into joy immediately.
Well, and it's
Um,
free, so why not
yes,
laugh? Why
right?
it's free, so do it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Listening to high vibrational music.
Yeah.
You can
Yeah.
Google what high vibrational music is. One of my favorite artists is Anugama, Anugama. And whenever I need to write, I put his music on. It immediately shifts my vibration.
Beautiful.
Um,
Wow.
yeah. So depending on what I'm doing, I do my own rituals, my own things that I need to do. Certainly, when you think about how do I shift myself from, like, to your point, from this AM to PM, sometimes it's going to take you a while, depending on what's going on in your life, right? If the outer
True.
circumstances
Right.
are
Mm-hmm.
matching how I feel internally, it's going to take me a little while to shift up and out, right, of those depressing states or depressing things. So
Mm-hmm.
that's why we've really got to go inward, because really whatever's being reflected to you in the outer world always started inside first,
Inside.
right? The thought,
Mm-hmm.
the emotion, and it manifests. And so ultimately, we have to work on all those levels in order to shift ourself to be in a place where we want to go. Now, the cool thing is the soul intelligence method can help. I mean, that is one of the things that I do is we shift what's stuck, especially if you don't know what's stuck. And
Exactly. Yeah.
that is certainly a
Mhm.
viable way to help get things started.
Exactly. And I just want to touch on you talked about that's why people talk about, like, Joe Dispenza and
Hmm.
other gurus, the mind body connection, because they all have to be in sync to, to feel how we want to feel. So the mind body connection, if and most people can be out of sync. So how does that happen, just very quickly? How does that happen if the mind body, if one or two are connected but the rest is not connected, and you want to feel a certain feeling? How does that
Mm.
happen?
Well, I think, really we're learning more and more about our nervous system, right?
Hmm.
And most of us today are constantly in fight or flight. All right,
Yes.
we're
Yes.
constantly amped, right?
Yeah.
Even when, like, you get a text on your phone, that can also put you into fight or flight. And
Hmm.
in order for you to manifest anything or to bring anything into your life, you have to be in a receptive state. So if you're
Yeah.
in constant stress, you're in
Yeah.
constant hypervigilance,
Hmm.
you're not in a state of receiving.
Hmm.
So you could even be, thinking it, trying to feel it, but if you're constantly stressed out, you're not in a place to receive it. It can't come
Right.
in. It's like you're choking the energy off, right? You're like the
Hmm.
garden hose is kinked.
Right.
So working on our stress level is probably the number one thing that people need to do so that the heart and mind can follow.
Hmm.
It is the number one reason why people get sick, because when you're stressed, your immune system's ability to function drops. Um, so there are simple things we can do. We can eliminate toxicities. One of my favorite is get rid of those energy vampires. So if there's a person, when they call your cell phone and you're just like, you don't want to answer it, that's a quick thing
Get
to
rid of
kind of,
them.
whoosh, cut them off.
Yeah.
But there are things that you can do to manage toxicity in your life emotionally, like, as well as mentally. Like, what am I feeding my brain, right? What am I reading? What am I listening to? What am I watching and streaming? Really being focused on how much stress you allow into your life, right? Some of the cast and characters, I always say everything's a mirror, right? So when you've got that stressful individual in your life, what are they showing you internally that you need to heal? Which
Mhm.
is really hard because I think most of us are like, if I just didn't have that person, it would be so much better. Or if I wasn't in this situation. But all of the things that we learn from, right, are these sharp edges, right? We don't learn from round corners. We got to bump into something. We have to have
Right.
that protagonist. We
So
have to
it's a
have,
mirror reflection. It's a mirror. What's happening on the external or on the internal. You might be mad with someone, but that's actually you. It's what's
absolutely,
reflecting on the outside.
absolutely, right? Because there's the higher level you go in consciousness, the more you're in an observer
Mhm.
mode
Mhm.
and the less you're affected. So I kind of describe the levels of consciousness as this. The base level is life is happening to me, right?
Mhm.
That is he said, she said, the story, the drama, we're all caught up in it,
Okay.
right?
Yeah.
The next level is really life is happening for me, right? Oh, I understand why this happened now. That makes so much sense. It's kind of like life university. You start to
Yeah.
take a little
Right.
bit greater view, right? And
Yeah.
go, okay, I get
Uh-huh.
that.
Mhm.
The next level is life is happening through me. And that's where, like when I'm doing a soul intelligence session, I really feel a divine presence kind of come through me when I'm doing this work, right? Because I'm connected. I'm making sure that I have got a sacred space set up and that I am, doing this energetic work from a soul level place. So
Mhm.
I really feel the divine come through me. And the last level of consciousness is life is happening as me. So that's like those rare moments, maybe when you're up on the top of a mountain and all you can hear is like the wind rustling by and you just kind of lose yourself in nature and you feel a part of everything. Or sometimes if you're out in the ocean and you just kind of melt into the waves, you almost feel yourself dissolve. If you're
Mhm.
lucky enough to have one of those blissed out meditations that
Wow.
we were talking about with
Beautiful.
Dr. Joe, it can happen.
Uh-huh.
Um, but we're not meant to stay there. We're not meant to stay in these, high gamma states, because we're having a human experience. We are spiritual beings having a human experience, right? You might be blissed out at the beach, and then the second you pull out into traffic, you're annoyed with that guy that just cut you off, right? We go right back down to the bottom.
Right back down, yeah.
Right. But the more we can stay in that life is happening for me and life is happening through me states, really it's kind of the high alpha to theta states, the happier we're going to be. And I think as we move up, the more we get into that observer mode, like, oh, like you're seeing through the divine's eyes. That's why that person is suffering, or you see through your eyes as this is why this person was in my life. It taught me about this, or it
Right.
taught me not to self-abandon, you
Mhm.
know. And so I think it's really kind of shifting our perspective is really what the levels of consciousness do for us.
Right. Beautiful. So let's talk about how do you bridge the gap between traditional medicine and holistic approach? Because correct me if I'm wrong, back in the 80s or in the 90s, King Charles actually, he came out and said, I back holistic medicine, whereby, most people do not, or they still do not. But how can you bridge that gap between traditional medicine and a holistic approach, especially facing skepticism? How do you do that?
Well, I think more and more people are wanting to heal naturally, right? I
Right.
think they're
Yeah.
looking for
Mhm.
alternative ways.
Mhm.
So, when I look at just the nutraceutical industry as a whole,
Mhm.
a lot in terms of the trajectory of growth, it's a high growth industry. And that's because more and more people would like to heal things naturally, right? As opposed to having to take medication. More people are
Right.
like,
Yeah.
I wonder if there's another way to do it. Like,
Mhm.
and so I think people are more open, more so than they ever have been. For me, when I'm talking about soul intelligence and my method, I really stand on science, right? Because I think science really takes any of the polarity out of, um, whether somebody would consider this to be, woo woo or religious or any of that. It's really agnostic when I talk about quantum physics and neuroplasticity and bioenergetics and why it works scientifically. And then you have an experience and you're like, oh my gosh, it does work because we are energy. I get that, you know?
Mhm. Yeah.
Um, and so I think people are more and more open to finding alternative ways to feel better. And if you think about the human body as a whole, it's kind of like a computer, right? Garbage in, garbage out.
Mhm.
So whatever we eat or consume, or whether we listen to, whatever we experience, all, has an impact on this vehicle that we're using and we're driving around called our body.
Right.
And so I think more and more people are open to different ways of healing and trying different things because they're not getting what they want from traditional medicine. Now, granted, if you're bleeding or having a heart attack, I highly encourage you to go to the hospital because our traditional way of healing and treating, we're great, when it's
Yeah.
a crisis like that,
Mhm. Mhm.
when it's acute care. But
Right.
when you're dealing with something that's chronic, and, this is what I really talk to people, something that just won't heal. There are an awful lot of autoimmune conditions out there, right? Meaning the body's attacking itself and it won't heal the condition. You
Mhm.
really have to look at, well, what's the underlying root cause? What's causing this in the first place? And that's really where I come in. And I work on the emotional and energetic level to figure out what that is that's holding the condition in place. And
Mm.
then we work with doctors. So whether they're going to prescribe a thyroid medication or whether they're going to put somebody on a nutraceutical like Thyro Complete really depends on the individual.
Right.
Depends on where they are, how, what they're experiencing, what's going well, what's not going well, and what kind of an intervention do we need. So I don't think it's one or the other. I think it's a spectrum, right?
Right. Yeah. Mhm.
When I first came to Nutritional Frontiers, I was kind of shamed that I was on blood pressure medicine. I go, what are you talking about? Like, I went to my cardiologist. I'm supposed to be on blood pressure medicine. I grew up, with traditional medicine in my household. And they're like, well, did you know that you could take something called um, seven flowers, which is the seven blue flowers, a Chinese herb, like herb medicine, like
Mhm.
nutraceutical as opposed to medicine. That's been around. It's Chinese. It's been around for thousands of years, and it helps lower blood pressure. Did you know you could do that? I was like, no. Well, we also have something else called Circucor that helps the body circulate. That's one of the challenges with the heart. If it's not got good circulation going on,
Mhm.
that helps. Or CoQ10, which is a nutrient that's depleted by medication that supports your heart. So I was like, really? So I took that combination of nutraceuticals and I'm completely off blood pressure medicine and my blood pressure has never been better or more normal. And I've
Amazing.
also changed my
Congratulations.
stress, right?
Right.
Which is a
Yeah.
big factor in blood pressure medicine too.
Uh-huh.
I'm no longer that crazy, plane hopping lunatic, at least in the corporate America. I do that for Nutritional Frontiers, but
Right.
it's a different level of stress. But the whole idea is there is a natural way to heal pretty much everything because the body wants to repair itself. So whether it needs support physically, mentally, emotionally, energetically, it needs it in all ways. And it's just a matter of getting to the root cause, which is really the basis of functional medicine, right? They don't just treat a body part. They look at, well, why did it happen in the first place and what do we need to treat? So we might be treating, for example, there's a connection between our gut and our brain. And when you have things like leaky gut, that basically means you've got holes in your gut lining. And so all of the stuff that's supposed to be processed in your gut is leaking into your bloodstream and it's getting up
Right.
into your brain and causing your brain to swell.
Mhm.
We're finding out now, like heart disease was the number one killer in the United States for a very long time. What's starting to surpass it is if you add up all of the different brain diseases that are out there, like dementia and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's, all of those things,
Yeah.
they're surpassing heart disease now. And
Oh,
that's
wow.
because of the inflammation in the brain. So if we can cool the body down, right,
Mhm.
by lowering the inflammation, there's lots of ways to do that and lots of nutraceuticals to support that.
Right.
We'll start to be able to attack it in a different way.
Beautiful. And talk about the gut. Your gut essentially is your second brain.
Hmm.
It's your
Yes,
second
ma'am.
brain. So whatever happens, Bob Proctor, he talks about the mind, the body, the beautiful diagram that he always illustrated, and how
Hmm.
your body is the instrument of your mind. So whatever's happening to your body is happening to the mind, and vice versa. So your gut is your second brain, and how we need to manage as to what is happening in the gut. I love,
Absolutely. Well, it's like there's
yeah,
so much that goes on there. Like I said, that's like the core of who we are.
right.
And that's why we start and end there in particular, you know. And just, you got good bugs in there, bad bugs in there,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
lots can go wrong. So
It sure
that's a
can, yes.
definitely a great place to start.
Exactly, but then it's how do you manage as to what's going on? Um, so you're on a mission to empower healthcare professionals and healers worldwide. How do you what are the practical approach, or how are you helping healers and healthcare professionals worldwide in your approach when it comes to a soul intelligence method?
Well, I have a course called, where I teach the soul intelligence method.
Mhm.
It's called, basically people trained to become a neuroenergetic healthcare professional, right? Because they're working with, the nervous system and energy and shifting things up and out of the body.
Right.
I also do this method for healthcare practitioners themselves. So, healer, heal thyself. A lot of times we get into medicine because we've had our own experience of something that just won't heal.
Mhm.
And, I know that was the experience of my doctor, Lisa Coach. And, she had to find alternative ways to healing because traditional medicine wasn't helping her.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
And that's how a
Mhm.
lot of doctors get into the field. So I work with them, mentally, emotionally, energetically, sometimes even physically, with the energy. And my book, actually, Healing Through Soul Intelligence, is full of stories of how I've helped heal healthcare practitioners.
That's
It's really
beautiful.
funny.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, I had a doctor, this story's in the book, but I had a doctor call me and say, look, I haven't been able to walk on my foot for, like, put any weight on it for nearly 4 months. I'm like, you're a doctor. What do you mean? Right? You're like, wait a second. And she's like, I have done everything I can think to do, and I just can't do it. And I was like, okay, well, let's do a session. She goes, that's why I'm calling you. So we did a session, and as I'm doing the work, I go, what is it with all of these men that aren't supporting you in your life? What's going?
Mhm.
There's like four or five. She goes, oh, let me tell you. I had a home construction project done on
Mhm.
my home. They did it improperly. The company was terrible. They wouldn't listen to me. They wouldn't course correct. They wouldn't fix what was wrong. So that I had to get an attorney. So I'm in the middle of a lawsuit with the attorney, and I can't even get my attorney on the phone. I went, huh. So I cleared, what was going on energetically for her there. She also had like a cold and a sinus infection that was going on.
Yeah.
And so the very next day, she sent me a text and she went, oh my God. She goes, I was crawling to the bathroom yesterday. I literally couldn't put any weight on my foot. Like and I couldn't, I had no strength for crutches. She goes, I can walk on my foot today. I go,
Beautiful.
amazing. And she
Yeah.
said, and my cold is cleared up, my sinus infection. She goes,
Wow.
she goes, that's unbelievable. I go, well, I said, now that your foot is healed, I want you to put it so far up your attorney's backside and get him to move this case forward. And she goes, that is my very next call. So that is kind of how it works, right? We don't know what our bodies are holding on to. That
Yeah.
had nothing to do with her physical body. That had nothing
Mhm.
to do with her practice. It had everything to do with how she wasn't able to move forward. It was her
Right.
right foot, the right side of the body, male, right? So our body gives us clues as to what's
Mhm.
going on. And it's just really up to us to be able to listen to them. But sometimes we're so in it, we can't see it.
We can't see it. Exactly. It's like you're
Yeah.
in the picture, but you can't see the frame.
Yes.
Exactly. Listen to your body and know what's happening, so you can start to heal yourself. And oftentimes, if we pay attention to what's happening to the body, we literally can heal ourselves. You don't have to go to the doctors. You don't have to go to the doctors, or you don't have to be on medication, because you're starting to heal yourself.
Right. Right.
Absolutely. Um, your final question, Kristine, is where do you see the future of the holistic health and the soul intelligence in the next 5 years? I'm just curious to know as to how that is going to play. So, how do you see that approach in the next 5 years? What's the future like for holistic health?
I think it's going to become a lot more mainstream than it may have been in the past.
Mhm.
We're seeing so many doctors want to transition from traditional medicine to naturopathic medicine. As a matter of fact, we're developing courses around that, right? There's so many naturopathic schools that are popping up as well. So many energy practitioners stepping forward. And I think, even with the influx of AI, right? Where it's
Mm,
no human interaction. People
right,
are craving that one-on-one and concierge level healthcare that functional medicine is providing. So I think it's really treating the body and the mind and the soul or the spirit all at the same time, right? You can't fix one part and expect the other part to be okay too. A
right.
lot of the reasons why chronic
Right.
conditions don't heal is
Mhm,
because the doctor will give you something to help, treat the symptom or treat the one issue. But if you're not dealing with the underlying emotional root cause,
right.
it's going to either come back or present in another part of the body, and you're going to have to deal with something else until you really figure out what's holding this in place and how can I get better.
Exactly. And you mentioned AI. How do you see the future of AI? How can AI integrate with the holistic methods?
Well, we can certainly use AI to help feed protocols, like what things do I need to take based on certain conditions. I certainly think we could program AI for our benefit,
Right.
coming up with our own customized chat GPT with all of our wonderful protocols to help somebody heal. But I don't think it's going to take the place of human interaction, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah. And I
Hmm.
think more people are going to be craving that because of how homogenized, all the marketing is becoming, how homogenized all of the messaging is becoming, how, you know what I mean? AI is making everybody the same, right? Because it's
Hmm.
really taking everything from the past inputs. So AI can't really predict the future. And so I really think that's where humans can thrive. And I certainly know that energy medicine, believe it or not, is actually predicted to be one of those things that is expected to grow in the future. And it's probably for that reason.
That's amazing. Well, I agree with you. AI can't replace, although AI is replacing so many, industries as we know. But I think, there will be a point that, everyone needs a human interaction. That will never go
Absolutely.
away. And, AI cannot do that. So, but Kristine, this has been such a powerful conversation. Absolutely, I really appreciate your time. Where can people find you, and how can we support you best?
Oh my gosh. Well, thank you so much. I can't believe it. Like this totally flew by.
I
I
know.
really enjoyed speaking with you as well.
Right.
In terms of finding me, it's pretty easy. People can go to my website, soulintelligencemethod.com, and that's soul like SOUL, soulintelligencemethod.com. My book is available on Amazon. It's on Kindle. It's also on Audible. I actually recorded it myself, and I've had several
Yeah.
people like give me feedback and say, "Oh my gosh, I feel like I got a healing because it was your voice." And so that's
Amazing.
pretty cool, right? And I have a course online to teach people to become a neuroenergetic healthcare practitioner. And
Mhm.
I've just started something that I'm offering once a quarter now, and that is called SQ for you, which is you got IQ, you got EQ, and then soul intelligence is SQ.
Right.
And it's a small personal use workshop that I'm doing over 2 days to teach people how to use about half the charts that I typically use just for themselves to try and get a little relief and then decide if becoming, a neuroenergetic healthcare practitioner is for them or not.
Amazing. Good stuff. Well, I look forward to getting your book. So we will put that, your book in the show notes. And
Fabulous.
what's the name of the book? Is Soul Intelligence Method. That's the
It
name of the book?
it is called Healing Through Soul Intelligence.
Amazing.
Yeah,
Right.
Best Holistic Life also, named it Book of the Year for 2025, and I just got word that they're including it in 2026 as well.
Oh,
I'm going to be on.
congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah, they've actually asked me to be on the cover of their January issue, so pretty exciting stuff going on over here. I'm
Amazing.
also in a movie that's expected to come out later in 2026 called The Pillars of Power, and
Wow.
that should be streaming on most streaming platforms. And it's really a celebration of today's transformational specialists, along with some of the pioneers that were actually in the secret, like Marie Diamond and Dr. Joe Vitale and some others. So, pretty exciting stuff coming up in 26 for me.
Well, Kristine, many, many congratulations. First of all, on your book.
Thank
And
you.
we look forward to, we'll put that in the show notes. But, congratulations on everything that's happening. You've got such a busy 2026. You've got a movie coming out. The Secret was fantastic, but you have a movie coming out, and everything that you have accomplished and you're about to accomplish in 2026. We could not be more proud, and so thank you for joining us today, and thank you for sharing such valuable insights. Thank you for sharing, groundbreaking, transformational approaches to holistic medicine and traditional medicine. So we want to thank you for your time.
Oh gosh, Alka, thank you so much. And thank you for giving me the opportunity to share with your listeners. I do sessions for people as well. If I don't, I have other practitioners listed on my website. I really want to get this method in as many people's hands as possible because I'm on a mission to make the world healthy in every way possible.
Absolutely. And so thank you, Kristine, and thank you to each and every one for tuning in today's powerful episode with Kristine Genovese. She is on a mission to empower healthcare professionals and healers worldwide, and we want to support Kristine. So do check out her book, available on Amazon, and do check out her work. It's absolutely just extraordinary as to what Kristine has accomplished and she's about to accomplish in 2026. So if you've enjoyed this episode, this powerful episode, do subscribe and leave us a review. In this way, we are going to bring amazing guests like Kristine and to give you valuable content. Until next time, stay tuned for Ask the Experts. Bye for now. Thank you, Kristine.
Thank you so much.